Part 74. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 735. Chapter 735 Clues 2. The meeting lasted until late at night before disbanding and everyone returned to their arranged living rooms to rest. But this strong enthusiasm still made everyone involved excited and unable to sleep for a long time. After a series of instrumental studies, it has been shown that becoming a vampire can indeed extend your life, but practicing secret martial arts also has the same effect. Although it is not as long as the life extension of a vampire, several excited group representatives have contacted their chief scientists through remote means. After asking about certain situations in a targeted manner, I got the idea that there might be hope for merging vampire genes to extend life. Even Garen became slightly interested in this. After careful discussion and research with these representatives, he also ordered the neural acceleration suit and a series of related research results from the representatives on behalf of the Holy Fist Palace. In particular, Garen was very interested in the vampire gene implantation plan. More than 2 hours after the meeting ended, Jia Long then took Tu Lan slowly towards the corridor back to the inner palace. Beside them, the moonlight shone quietly through the transparent window glass, falling on the floor and their boots. What an amazing gathering! Tu Lan still feels unbelievable to this day. The accumulated oppression of mankind has indeed reached the point of exploding. Yeah, I just gave them a chance to detonate. Garen nodded. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, even I wouldn't be able to believe that humans could pose such a big threat to the vampires. Tu Lan shook his head and sighed. Fortunately, I'm on your side. You don't even believe that the vampires will win? Garen raised his eyebrows slightly. No, it's not. It's that there are too many humans for the vampires, and after all, the number is too small. Tu Lan shook his head. Laser weapons, high-energy explosions, these methods are enough to threaten the vampires. Humans are no longer what they were hundreds of years ago. That world. Even without you, if this power continues to accumulate, it will explode one day. That's right. Garen nodded. Report, a black shadow appeared behind Garen and the other two. Marshal Dam successfully found the mask and returned, and is now waiting in the Golden Hall. The official subordinate in the palace who practiced the secret martial arts of projection reported loudly. Oh, Garen smiled slightly. Finally, I have not betrayed my trust this time. Let's go and see together. He glanced at Tu Lan beside him. Certainly. Tu Lan was also curious about what was so special about the mask that Garen valued so much. The two of them turned back, walked towards the right branch of the corridor, passed through several corridors and a small courtyard, and walked into a golden hall that was about the same size as the silver conference hall. The hall was empty except for Dam, standing in the middle dressed in black with his head bowed. He was wrapped in a heavy grey cloak from head to toe. There is also a white mask with red eyes on his face, and only the breath on his body can tell that he is indeed Dam. How did you end up like this? As soon as he came in, Garen frowned and stared at Dam's outfit. Teacher, please forgive me. Dam's voice came from under the cloak. This time, my subordinates were looking for the mask and encountered a black giant monster they had never seen before near the Moon River. They chased it for more than a month before finally killing the leader of the giant beast on a cliff and getting the mask. But his body was also corroded by the acid from the leader of the giant beast. Lift the cloak and let me take a look. Garen took his seat in the hall and said calmly. With a crash, Dam opened his cloak. On the body exposed below, although only the wrists and neck can see the skin, the wrinkled skin that healed like a burn with boiling water, like the skin of an 80 or 90-year-old man, made both Jia Long and Tu Lan slightly agitated. Frowning. With your superior strength, you are actually in such a mess by a giant beast. Garen stood up, his body transformed into a series of after images, and appeared in front of Dam in an instant. Bang! He slapped Dam on the chest. The power of this palm is not very strong, but it seems to contain something strange. That was Garen's own courage. The energy was like a small snake that swam around in Dam's body before quickly withdrawing. Wow! Damu violently vomited out a mouthful of black water with a sour smell. He spat it out on the ground between the two of them. The stone ground suddenly emitted a hissing white air, and was corroded by the mouthful of black water. Hissing. The remaining poisonous water has been cleared for you. With your self-healing ability, it will not be difficult for your skin to regenerate. Where is the mask? Garen said calmly. Dam quickly took out a mask from under the cloak. Unlike other masks, this mask looked exactly the same as the one Garen was wearing, but there were still some fine flesh tentacles left on its edges, like a living thing. These shreds of meat are actually still squirming automatically. After taking the mask, Garen suddenly felt a large amount of potential energy pouring into his body from the mask. At the same time, Tu Lan and Dam who were present both vaguely heard the wailing sound coming from the mask, as if they were afraid of Garen. The fleshy tentacles on the edge of the mask struggled wildly, trying to escape from Garen's hands, but to no avail. Soon, the mask's wailing became weaker and weaker, and finally became inaudible. The flesh tentacles on the side of the mask also fell to the ground and turned into puddles of black ashes, which was very weird. Garen put away the mask, and could still feel the huge potential of the mask pouring into his body. Thank you for your hard work. In return for this mission, Garen stretched out his index finger and lightly touched Dam's right shoulder. Bang! As if struck by thunder, Dam stood motionless, as if in a daze. Jia Long turned around and left the hall with Tu Lan, who had a completely baffled expression. She didn't understand what happened at all. Whether it's the weird mask change or Dam's sudden change. The finger that Garen pointed out is the remaining vitality stored in his killing hand. This lifelike thing can help the powerful source of life innate, and can also help improve physical fitness. For Garen, this it's naturally of little use to a pervert whose body is already so powerful. But for Dam, they just have powerful boxing power, and their physical fitness has not reached the limit. This vitality can help Dam accelerate his secret martial arts practice and further improve his boxing skills. It can also quickly help heal the wound when you suffer a serious injury without damaging your vitality. But for Dam, the biggest effect of this vitality is that it makes it possible for him to surpass Horseman. Continue to search until all the 12 masks are found. I will teach you the truly powerful secret method that can maximize your strength. Before Garen left, the message reached Damu's ears. The latter bowed his head deeply. For Garen, he has many secret techniques. According to his understanding, it is not difficult to create a secret technique of his own, just like the secret technique of projection. Dam's Death Water Bird Fist and Hassaman's Extermination Water Bird Fist have gradually found the path that suits them best. Different original boxing secrets have also been developed. The actual power strength of the two of them is almost the same. If you add the powerful secret method that Garen Taylor made for one of them, then the balance of power will be strongly tilted. After leaving the Golden Hall, Galen sent Tu Lan back to rest and walked towards the special secret room alone. The secret room was dark with no lights, but Garen could still see it as daylight. He walked to an isolated circular safe placed in the center, grabbed a thick ring in the center of the safe with one hand, and lifted it up. Suddenly, a half-meter thick cylinder was lifted up from the center. The middle section of the column is hollow, and there is a stack of masks inside, as well as the dragon head coin left by Nadia. The strange thing is that the coin usually appears to swim in the shape of a powerful dragon, but now there is no movement at all. Garen frowned slightly. The weight of the cylinder was about 1 ton. For ordinary people, this weight itself was a safe protection. If you can't lift it, let alone move the round safe fixed to the ground, that one is heavier. Be careful, I feel something bad. Hessas hadn't spoken for a long time, and now he suddenly spoke. I understand. Garen nodded. A sense of crisis wrapped around him like a cobweb. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, Garen no longer thought about anything else, but prepared to focus on absorbing the potential points of the sixth mask first. In a deep underground cave somewhere far away near the North Pole. In a dark cave, a beautiful woman with a pale face leaned quietly against the inner wall of the cave. She was covered in white gauze and leaned against the stone wall. Her hair was very long, as white as snow, trailing on the ground and scattered everywhere. Almost half of the entire cave floor was covered by her long, snow-white hair, like a fine plush carpet. Each of the white hair strands is tens of meters long, and they emit white fluorescence faintly and spontaneously in the cave, giving people a quiet and pure feeling. The long hair covers the woman's body, making it difficult to tell whether she is sitting or lying by the cave wall. Mother of Lions, why did you invite us here? Suddenly a ball of red blood slowly appeared in the air beside the woman, and a clear man's voice came from inside. Soon, two more groups of blood balls slowly emerged, floating in the air at two other angles. Hangyu, you are indeed alive, a woman's voice came from another ball of blood. She seemed to be speaking to the last ball of blood. There was a heavy look of sadness on the white-haired woman's face. I also invited Mr. Pale, but now it seems he won't come. Reconciliation between the two parties, whether it comes or not, depends on the will of the leader. If you have anything to say, just say it. A deep male voice came from the last ball of blood. The lion mother nodded. I wonder if you have heard of the legend of the sleepless face. Mysterious mask legends spread among mortals. I know something about it, the voice of the first blood ball responded. I heard a little bit. A female voice came from the blood cell. The lion mother nodded again. Actually, the sleepless face is related to a very dark secret. A secret about immortality. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 736. We vampires are already immortal, why do we need that mask? The dead apostle woman, one of the blood globes, asked impatiently. Of course, this is not attractive to us vampires, so no one collects this mask, the lion mother said lightly, but, for ordinary humans, having eternal life and not dying is already the greatest desires and desires. You mean, the Holy Fist Palace is collecting this mask? Dead Apostle Hangyu asked in a low voice. Holy Fist Palace, the sound of gnashing teeth came from the first ball of blood. Wellington was one of the vampires who was deeply persecuted by Galen. He was even more impressed by this. If Bai hadn't arrived in time, he might have been killed continuously that day. He tortured and killed him until he left there and was resurrected from his own bloodline. The most important thing is that the pain of being tortured and killed, being smashed into meat paste all of a sudden, that kind of severe pain, made him have a psychological shadow on a human being for the first time. So, the legend of the mask is true? Hangyu asked lightly. It's true, the lion mother nodded. As far as I know, the Holy Fist Palace has collected 6 masks. If you collect a total of 12 complete masks, you can unlock the final mask body. Once you put on the original mask, it is likely that Galleon will be transformed into the one that once appeared. The original vampire. The first vampire, none of the dead apostles understood very well this time. The mask of the sleepless face is said to be the mask that originally created the ancestor of the blood race, but this is just a legend. I once knew that this mask does have some strange effects. The sleepless face can make people completely immune to any hallucinations. It interferes with the extraordinary power of dreams. This is why it is truly called the sleepless face. In other words, once he gets this mask, he will probably become a vampire, and he will also be completely immune to our dream interference and hallucination effects. If we want to deal with him, we can only do it in the ordinary material world. The female death apostle's voice became sharp. Damn it! Doing it in the material world? Do you know how perverted that monster is in the material world? Wellington screamed. Don't be anxious. In fact, there is something more important that I haven't finished talking about yet. The mother of lions shook her head. What's more important? Wellington wanted to shout, but was stopped by the female death apostle on the side. I guess that once Garen becomes the ancestor of the vampire clan, he will probably have the ability to track the dreams of the dead apostles. As soon as these words came out, the entire cave fell silent. No one spoke, and several dead apostles were shocked by the danger of these words. After a long time, Hongyu slowly spoke. If it really does have this effect, why haven't so many people tried to find it? Because I am the only one who knows the secret, the lion mother replied calmly. I have been alive for so long that I can't remember how long. I also forgot where I learned this secret, but do you really think that no one has looked for it? In 1871, a countess in Europe had collected 5 masks, but she eventually died while searching for the 6th mask. In 1544, King Melsa of Greece sent an army to collect masks everywhere and got 6. Again, it stops there. These are just some of the examples that I've been observing. She spoke calmly, as if historical events seemed to her like small things that happened not long ago. Everyone, almost everyone who collects masks, will stop at the number 6. There are no exceptions. But what? I don't know which dead apostle asked, but no one cares about this now, and everyone's attention is focused on the Lion Mother. However, the Holy Fist Palace is probably the first existence to exceed this number, the Lion Mother whispered. The 7th mask, the guardian from Moon River, has been killed. As far as I know, there are only 6 masks in Garen's hands including the one in Moon River, and it does not exceed this number, Hongyu said calmly. There is another one in someone else's hand. The words of the Lion Mother immediately caused several dead apostles to fall into silence. Are you really sure that the Sleepless Face can achieve the creation of the ancestral vampire clan? And are you sure that the ancestral vampire clan can locate our dreams? The female death apostle asked sharply. All the bloodlines of your blood clan originate from the most ancient ancestor. It was the miracle of life created by human beings using black magic in their initial pursuit of immortality. In other words, it was a mutation. From the origin, I have studied it carefully. The ancestral bloodline should be able to sense the location of all bloodlines lower than its own. Maybe there will be a range, but it will definitely not be very small, the Mother of Lions answered. I need to go back and check the ancient books. Hongyu's blood cells suddenly collapsed and scattered, and she left directly. I also need to go back and look for information, the female dead disciple whispered. The initial eye of our clan's sacred weapon has stored a large amount of top secret information for thousands of years, and I will definitely find some clues. I'm with you, Wellington also said. Good. The 2 groups of blood cells immediately collapsed and dissipated. Calm returned to the cave again. There was a hint of sadness in the eyes of the Lion Mother. The world is getting more and more chaotic. The Holy Fist Palace is the source of all turmoil, she murmured, and the look of compassion on her face became even stronger. Garen sat cross-legged in the secret room. In the darkness, the mask placed between his knees was continuously flowing out a large amount of potential points, turning into streams of cool air, pouring into his legs, along his waist, and flowing to his chest. Then passed through the neck and into the head. Garen closed his eyes and looked at the attribute bar at the bottom of his field of vision. His potential points kept rising up one by one. Every time he saw such a scene, he felt an inexplicable sense of relief. This feeling of growing stronger is so intoxicating. I don't know how long it lasted, but the potential points in the mask slowly began to weaken. After a while, the potential breath became weaker and weaker, and finally only a little trickle remained, flowing continuously into the body. Snapped. Garen gently picked up the mask and placed it in the safe. He looked at the attribute column. The potential points have increased from 64 to 174. This mask provides him with no more than 100 potential points, which is not too many among all masks, but it is just enough to satisfy his last point. Intellectual needs. Without hesitation, Garen focused his attention directly on the intelligence column. The intelligence has reached 11 points. As long as you advance one more point, you can return to the situation in the totem world period. When you reach 12 points, you can obtain the special abilities and dual skills generated by the accumulation of attributes. In an instant, the potential points were reduced by 100 points. There are still 74 points left, and the intelligence has increased from 11 points to 12 points. Garen's body, sitting cross-legged on the ground, suddenly shook violently. He felt that there seemed to be some kind of lightness in his body. Just a slight increase in intelligence gave him the illusion that his whole body was so light that he was flying. He raised his hand and thrust forward. Tisk! There was an explosion in the air in front of him. Two white air blades appeared out of thin air and flew out fiercely. They hit the wall of the secret room twice and actually cut two deep knives on the metal wall. Mark. Double skills. On the basis of my all-out explosion, and one more level, I can activate this state. This feeling is very strange, as if I could only explode with all my strength originally, but now it has one more layer. On the basis of the all-out explosion, it seems that I can still have the energy to explode one more time. Standing up from the ground, Garen took off the mask on his face and replaced it with an intact one. This mask had been slightly damaged in the previous fight with Bye-Bye. The double technique was successful. The next step is to collect the remaining masks with all our strength. Garen had a clear goal in his mind. No matter what Nadia's conspiracy is, as long as the masks are collected, we can isolate the coordinates of her arrival and completely eliminate possible dangers. Bailey Group Headquarters. 19th floor, Mile Building. Bang. The originally spacious lobby on the floor was kicked open, and teams of heavily armed special police officers in black rushed in quickly, followed by a series of safety signals that kept ringing in the communicator. The entire 19th floor is filled with desks and computer chairs that have not been used for a long time. The remaining documents are scattered everywhere. In front of the open window, a few documents that have fallen on the ground are still beaten. Wet marks. On the entire 19th floor, which is enough to accommodate hundreds of people working together, there is not a single person there. More than a dozen special police officers rushed in and stood guard at key points. Then Sidon strode in wearing a black trench coat, followed closely by two capable men, one man and one woman. He had a cigarette in his mouth, but didn't light it. He glanced sharply at the entire floor. It seems that this place has been abandoned. Bailey Group is really decisive. He took off his cigarette and said calmly. Boss, the airport and train station will definitely be able to trace the whereabouts of the core members of the Bailey Group, the woman behind him said calmly. Someone is already working on it. It's probably done now. Before he finished speaking, Sidon suddenly turned his eyes. He didn't know when a silver pistol appeared in his hand. Without even looking at it, he just walked towards the window. Aim. Boom. Bang bang. Almost at the same time, 3 gunshots rang out at the same time. From the direction outside the window on the floor, 2 gunshots suddenly sounded, and 2 sniper bullets were fired instantly. The wall was punched through, and the window glass was punched through, leaving 2 clear round holes. The bullets shot at Sidon like lightning, and from 2 separate angles, he almost felt that he could not avoid it. At this moment, the bullets he raised also flew out at the same time, hitting one of the sniper bullets with amazing accuracy. The 2 bullets deflected to the right and shot out with a clanging sound. On the side wall and water dispenser. Sidon poofed and clutched his left shoulder. Still unable to avoid it, he was hit by a gunshot and a cloud of scarlet blood exploded. His face turned pale instantly. The opponent used armor-piercing bullets and anti-material sniper rifles. Almost immediately, a hole was punched through his shoulder, leaving no room for resistance. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 737. Hidden, Sidon shouted, and the two subordinates behind him also rolled on the spot and immediately found the blind corner of the wall pillar to block their bodies. Even though he is a powerful secret warrior, as a non-defensive warrior who practices water bird boxing, he is unable to resist head-on when faced with the powerful attack of real human thermal weapons. Unless they are those perverts who practice Bayun's secret martial arts, although they are not very fast, in this case, they are simply the best human shields. Among them, there is a pervert who practices Bayun's secret martial arts. Not to mention his natural divine power, it seems that his physical qualifications are also somewhat strangely, after practicing, just after reaching the second level, the body began to have stronger defensive talents than students at the same level. Someone once tested him and shot him in the stomach with a large caliber pistol that had not reduced its power, but it could only manage to produce a small drop of blood. It is estimated that even this kind of anti-material rifle, if it were him, after penetrating a layer of obstacles, it would be at most about the same power as a pistol at close range. The SWAT officers took cover, but none of them discovered where the bullets came from. But soon the SWAT police who stayed below isolated the building from the opposite direction of possible shooting. Police cars kept arriving one after another. With the support of the government and the military, the United States is now equivalent to the representative of the Holy Fist Palace. The vampire forces have withdrawn from the United States on a large scale, either directly suppressed by the Holy Fist Palace or due to constant conflicts with ordinary people. With the upgrade, both the vampires of the two parties and the neutral and reclusive vampires were forced to show up one after another. In order to continue their stable lives, most of the neutral vampires had no choice but to join the Holy Fist Palace and become a part of it. Soon, the gunmen arranged nearby by Bailey Group were also captured by the vampires who joined the Holy Fist Palace and were escorted directly to Sidon for interrogation. Under the influence of the vampire's human control technique, the killer finally quickly revealed the channel through which he took on the mission. I'm afraid Cabu never dreamed that there would be vampires participating in the Holy Fist Palace. The effect of the human control technique made the killer honestly confess everything he knew. 2 hours later, Cabu and Medes, who were hiding in a basement cellar in Los Angeles, were captured by Hassan himself and escorted to the Holy Fist Palace for processing. Tell me, where is the mask? Garin calmly looked at Cabu and Medes kneeling below. They looked sluggish and embarrassed. They must have suffered a lot on the road. Originally, I could have asked you to say it in many ways, but I have always been kind. After all, you are also old people who have been in contact with me. Garin said calmly. Mask, I do have a mask in my hand, and I also know where the next few masks are. Cabu calmed down and said. But I have a condition. You are not qualified to negotiate terms. Garin lowered his eyes, stood up, and walked directly to the small door on the right. Kill him. Hoseman's pupils shrank suddenly, and he didn't notice at all that a blue figure appeared next to Cabu and Medes. It was Tulan in a blue dress. Her long, voluptuous red hair was spread over her shoulders like blood, and the beautiful peach blossom eyes in her hair seemed to exude some weird beauty charm. Cabo and Medes, who were half kneeling on the ground, originally thought that Garin was just retreating in order to gain more bargaining chips. When Garin had completely left the hall, they realized that the other party really didn't care. Coupled with the sudden teleportation of the woman in blue, the two of them truly panicked. This is completely illogical. When negotiating terms, shouldn't it be that you come back and forth, advancing and retreating? Why did you flip the table in the first place? Tell me all the information you have about the sleepless face. Ian's eyes seemed to be filled with fatal magic power, and he could easily absorb the two people's minds completely. Suddenly the expressions of the two people began to become dull. Even though he had watched it many times, Hassan still had a frightening feeling in his heart. Ian's human control skills are not comparable to those of ordinary vampires. This kind of power makes him feel uncomfortable even if he is standing aside and not the main target. A few minutes later, with a shocked look on his face, Tu Lan appeared next to Galen, who was watering the greenhouse garden. Report the series of information learned from Cab and Metis to Garen one by one. Can the sleepless face achieve immortality? Create the ancestor of the blood race, Garen repeated in surprise. What I learned from Cabu's mouth is indeed this information, so he has been secretly trying to get the mask of sleepless hands, but it is a pity that he does not have as much confidence and strength as you. As an ordinary person, so far, being able to get a mask is already pretty good. To Lan's side. Garen was silent for a while, then reached out and gently picked off a white rose that had just bloomed, put it under his nose and slowly smelled the fragrance. Glancing at Tu Lan, she seemed to be hesitant, as if she had something to say but didn't know how to say it. Speak directly if you have anything to say. Tu Lan hesitated for a moment, then spoke. Since you don't know that masks have this function, then why are you collecting masks? I have my own reasons. You don't have to worry about this. Garen smiled. Is it because of the strange energy inside? Tu Lan whispered. Oh? You know, Garen was a little surprised. Ancient cultural relics contain magical energy. This secret was only known to the men in black at first. Later, as the top core of the men in black dispersed, this secret gradually ceased to be a secret. It was nothing if Tu Lan knew it. Garen didn't care whether others knew it or not, his innate abilities could not be replaced by anyone. It can absorb this energy, purify it and use it to improve various abilities. This is indeed a powerful ability. However, whether it is the world of secret martial arts or the world of totems, he is not the only one who truly has bug-like abilities. He also has the perverted 99 Jing Kong secret techniques like White Bird Holy Fist Parasha, but these are just the starting point. What truly determines victory or defeat, is ultimately the persistence of one's will in the battle. Whether it is him, Xianflan, or Palasha, they all represent the pinnacle of an era and are representatives of one era after another. They can't just explain the reason with a supernatural talent. Without that kind of persistence that is always focused to the extreme, they would not be able to achieve that achievement. Tu Lan looked at Garen's side face and suddenly felt that this man had an indescribable mystery. It was a more mysterious temperament than those of their dead disciples. A mere human being, but in just 20 years, he has reached such a height, as if he has known it since he was a child. He knows many things by himself without a teacher, and the look in his eyes does not look like that of a 20-year-old young man. And like an old man who has experienced the world for a long time. If you can really achieve your ancestors' bloodline, the other dead apostles will not allow you to live forever. A strong man like Garen, who is as powerful as a dark cloud, has enveloped the vampires. The dead apostles are used to their lofty status. Suddenly, a being like one appears standing above everyone. This is something that none of the dead apostles would have thought about. Need. Conflicts between us and the old blood clan are inevitable. Garen smiled and seemed not worried at all. But so what? No one can stop me, not even the Pale. He thought back to his life in this world. For some reason, he had been unconsciously falling into memories recently. But he did not reject it, recalling his birth, childhood, and days with Raphael. Days in a small town. I may have to go out for a few days, and then you will be in charge of the Holy Fist Palace, Garen suddenly said. Aren't you afraid of a surprise attack by the dead apostles? Tu Lan was stunned. I can't stop them. Wellington must hate you to the core now and will not miss any opportunity to attack you. It is unlikely that someone with a pale personality would do such a thing, but the other two dead disciples have to be on guard. Garen also frowned slightly. This is indeed a problem. If the mask thing forces him to stand against the entire Old Blood clan, then the Old Blood clan has two dead disciples besides Baiwan. It will be really troublesome once they join forces. Tu Lan alone was unable to resist, and she was only a newly promoted death apostle. The Holy Fist Palace has now become a spiritual symbol of human strength against the Old Blood clan. There must be no trouble. Many important figures in the United States have gathered here, and their influence is far-reaching. Once the Old Blood clan succeeds in raiding it, the consequences will be disastrous. Is there any news about AG's retreat? Garen asked, changing the subject. No, but it is said that a rare glacier earthquake occurred in Antarctica where AG retreats. After a huge glacier collapse, the original location of AG has become unclear. We can only use a weak positioning martial arts connection to confirm that AG is still there. Live Tu Lan has now followed Garen with all her heart. With her lazy character, after getting the enjoyable way to become stronger by practicing the secret martial arts, she became even more immersed in it and didn't want to leave. Garen just planned to go see Raphael and, if possible, pick her up and her relatives to avoid being threatened by her if the vampire found out about this relationship. But now it seems that he is directly tied to the Holy Fist Palace. Glendo Town. In a black villa in the middle of the town. The hall of the villa was dark, with no lights, only rows of candles lit on the ground, arranged in a circle, surrounding the entire hall. The dim candlelight swayed slightly, illuminating the scene in the hall. 3 beautiful girls wearing white dresses and white garlands were currently surrounded by a large group of witches in black. They quietly held silver triangle ornaments and walked slowly towards a gray statue in front of them. Among them, a blonde girl walking in the front was the youngest and most promising genius witch in Grando, Raphael. She walked at the front with a solemn expression, walked slowly to the female statue, and pricked the index finger of her left hand with a silver triangular ornament. Snapped. A drop of scarlet blood fell into a black basin in front of the statue. Great Mother of Lions, please allow Grander's most dazzling Kerala to offer you the purest gift. Raphael's grandmother raised her wooden staff and sang loudly. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 738. Following the singing, the blood drops in the basin suddenly became thicker and thicker, spreading rapidly. A mere drop of blood turned a black basin the size of a basin completely red. Raphael raised his head, faced the statue's eyes, and lightly scratched the center of his eyebrows with his bloody index finger, leaving a trace like cinnabar. Close your eyes. Just when the ceremony was about to end, the witches were about to remove their things, suddenly. Buzz. A huge tyrannical and gentle force suddenly descended. This power shone with a hazy white light on the statue. Strangely, the stone statue moved. She stretched out her right arm and gently touched Raphael's cheek. The Mother of Lions has really arrived, a witch exclaimed in surprise. Great Mother of Lions. Please bless our leader of grandeur. The Witch King is supreme. The witches suddenly became excited and excited. Raphael's grandma also looked happy, staring at Raphael and the statue without blinking. There were only a handful of times in history when the Mother of Lions came to bless her like this. On weekdays, she could only communicate a little bit of the Lion Mother's will on special festivals. How could it be like now, when the entire Witch King's will came over and he wanted to fully bless Raphael? Raphael of grandeur, beautiful Sun Witch, I will bless you, and you will have strong status and power in the future. A majestic spiritual will enveloped her. A sweet smile appeared on Raphael's cheeks. But no one could see that in her closed eyes, her eyes gradually lost their original agility, and instead showed an inexplicable dullness. In a remote underground cave, the Lion Mother slowly opened her closed eyes, and the compassion in her eyes became even stronger. Don't blame me. In order to eliminate the source of all unrest, any sacrifice is worth it. The seventh mask, in an ancient tomb in Asia. The Holy Fist Palace will definitely send people to look for it. As long as we send people there, we will be able to delay or even prevent him from getting the seventh mask. Then who should be sent there? At least a higher-ranking vampire will lead the team. Otherwise, it will be difficult for Hoseman and Dam to solve the problem. In the Blood Alliance Council Hall. The 4 dead disciples of the Camarillo Ming party occupy the 4 highest seats. They are surrounded by representatives of their respective family lineages and other blood races. They sit in a large circle in a dense circle. The Blood Alliance Conference is the meeting between the 2 parties of the Camarillo Ming party. The only meeting for peaceful coexistence since the war began. Although people on both sides of the Ming party and the secret party hate each other, the pressure on mankind is getting stronger and heavier, and the actions against the vampires are becoming more and more extreme. Many old vampires are constantly being found by detectors, and even on the spot. There were many executions. Human beings call the vampires who join the Holy Fist Palace new vampires and new humans. As for the vampires who have not joined the Holy Fist Palace, they are called the old vampires. Under this distinction, both the Ming party, the secret party, and the neutral vampires were all suppressed on a large scale. Under this situation, many red-eyed humans could no longer control their emotions, and began to suppress the vampires unscrupulously. This forced the Blood Clan Blood Alliance to hold an emergency meeting to discuss how to deal with the problems they would face next. Now the 4 dead apostles have reached a rare agreement on the issue of searching for the sleepless face in the Holy Fist Palace. Wellington looked at the other 2 dead apostles. I also checked the information when I went back. Indeed, the sleepless face does have the effect of transforming people's physiques and transforming people into the ancestors. In addition to their long lifespan, the ancestors have the ability to locate all dead disciples, and there is nothing special about the rest. But even so, I shudder when I think about the possibility that galleons will continue to weigh on us like this. I have also found records of the abilities of the ancestor of the vampire clan. The only female dead disciple said calmly. Me too. Another unfamiliar-looking blonde man in black robes replied calmly. The 3 of them are the 3 core dead disciples of the entire secret party, and this man is also the most mysterious one among them. Opposite their seats was Hongyu sitting opposite Ming Dang. It was a young man with long black hair, his face was pale, and he looked a little cold. Only when his eyes moved slightly did people feel that he was alive. Hongyu, what do you think? The female dead disciple looked at Hongyu. If we don't participate, joining the Holy Fist Palace is not an option, Hongyu said lightly. He had been chased by the 2 dead disciples of the secret party for so long, and now his energy was still severely injured, so he didn't bother to care about these things. Fortunately, we have an obvious advantage, that is, we have enough manpower, and we can use more cards than the Holy Fist Palace. And he only has 1 death apostle and 2 upper ranks. He himself must sit at the headquarters and cannot leave. Wellington analyzed. I think we can launch a nuclear strike directly at the location of the Holy Fist Palace, and use human technology to directly destroy the hope of mankind. A hint of cruelty flashed in his eyes. When he thought about how he was being killed by Garen one after another, he felt a wave of evil fire in his heart. In this way, he was cast into the shadow by Garen. If he could find a real way to deal with the Death Apostles, he would be able to locate him. The Death Apostle's true form, isn't it easier than killing a chicken with 1 punch? He must not be allowed to find the last few masks. If possible, I suggest that we also start looking for the last few masks and keep them in the hands of our Blood Alliance first, he suggested. This is okay too. Since you want to prevent him from getting the mask, why not simply eliminate his gang members, the blonde man in black robe said calmly. Although several people said nothing about Wellington's nuclear retaliation, it did not mean that they would really give up this method. It's just that a nuclear strike is a last resort and cannot be used until the last moment. Otherwise, it will kill 1,000 enemies and damage oneself 800. The lethality of that is too terrifying. Both Hoseman and Dam only have upper-level strength. We can easily deal with these 2 if we are careful. Then the other party will also learn this trick from us, the female dead disciple frowned. We can lead him into an ambush. Isn't he strong enough? Use a large amount of high explosives to see if we can kill him, or enough gas bombs, biochemical viruses. 1000-degree flame spray, laser cutting. I can't do that. You can't kill him. The blond man in black robe had a calm expression, but his words clearly surprised even Wellington. These tricks were almost all used to deal with Garen in a human way. And this man is obviously very familiar with human technology. It seems that your human economic group has influenced you too deeply, Hongyu said calmly from the side. Once this method is used, don't you think they will use these methods against us? You must know that the number of humans is far greater than ours. This is war, and war should be fought with all possible means, the blond man in black robe said calmly. I agree. Wellington raised his hand. Let's vote by a show of hands. 2 hands were raised. The female dead disciple hesitated for a moment, then raised her hands. Hongyu was indifferent. It's up to you. We, the Ming party, will not participate. He patted the armrest of the seat and slowly disappeared from the seat. At the same time, all representatives of the Ming party who received the reminder also left the meeting. Even without them, we can easily contain the Holy Fist Palace. The blond man in black robe looked calm. Asia Fallweeder Mountains. The whitish-brown mountains at the top are like a giant brown python lying between Asia and Europe, completely dividing the two regions. Surrounding this mountain range are dozens of small countries in close proximity. One of the small countries is Kasarn. Khazar is a small Buddhist country with a population of no more than 20 million and only 5 cities including the capital. The vast majority of them are Buddhists. In the afternoon, the sky was slightly dark, and over Lulan Mountain, the capital of Khazar, the bells began to ring as usual. The heavy copper bell was struck one after another, accompanied by the faint sound of chanting from the temple. The streets of Luolanchen are bustling with people. From time to time, gray-black elephants pass by slowly. Women walk around wearing gauze skirts that can only cover their upper bodies. Most of them have a red mark on their eyebrows, indicating married. Unmarried girls have long braided hair, no marks between their eyebrows, and walk in groups of 3s and 2s. From time to time, you can still see ascetics on the street. They are skinny, dark-skinned, some are bare-chested, have long hair and beards, and they look very sloppy. Lulan Mountain is close to the largest Jialuo temple. In a large concrete open space, some ascetics sit cross-legged on the ground, closing their eyes and muttering sutras. I don't know what kind of activities are being held. There were many local children, girls, and teenagers around, as well as foreign tourists, holding up cameras and taking pictures. Some foreign tourists have blonde hair, some have black hair, and they can show off the characteristics of any country. You can even see black people with skin as black coal. One of the women, who looked like a tourist, wore large brown-toed glasses, was stylishly dressed, had a curvy figure, and was wearing a beautiful black skirt. She was followed by 2 muscular bodyguards of men with crew cuts behind her. She put her hands together and bowed slightly in front of the ascetics, and then selected small things at a stall selling accessories nearby, but her eyes were hidden in the direction of the Jialuo temple on the mountain. It has been determined that the 7th mask is under the Buddha relic pagodas behind the Garo temple. There should be an ancient tomb underground palace there. A man's voice, as thin as a gnat, penetrated into the woman's ears. She nodded slightly. Don't worry, devout Buddhists are not allowed to enter that place, otherwise it may cause large-scale riots. Let's wait until it gets later. The woman has gorgeous blonde hair. Following the Sith Lord's orders, we'd better remove the mask without alerting anyone. Clear. The man's voice slowly disappeared. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 739. Time passed by, and the woman and others had something to eat at a small restaurant nearby. They were all ordinary vegetarian dishes, which left everyone looking tasteless. The sky gradually darkened, and light slowly began to light up everywhere. The woman and two bodyguards slowly walked toward the alley behind the temple, seemingly unintentionally. After branching into a relatively narrow alley, there was no one inside. The three of them suddenly changed their movements quickly, from leisurely and slow to agile and fast. After taking off her clothes and jacket a few times and putting them back on, the woman was actually wearing a black tights underneath. Walk. The three of them climbed up the temple wall like geckos, jumped from the wall and disappeared into the night temple wall. But right behind them, two figures in black slowly walked out of the dark alley again. The eyes of both figures were blood red, giving people a strange and inexplicable feeling. It should be them. Keep up. These two people are clearly the guards assigned by the Blood Clan. Compared to the Holy Fist Palace, the Blood Clan knows far too many secrets. Even if they are not interested in the Sleepless Face, their rare intelligence network can still infiltrate the vast sea of intelligence. Quickly find out this part of the content while accumulating, and then follow the teams gathered from the Holy Fist Palace to station and squat everywhere. After the two vampires entered, two slender figures appeared at the entrance of the alley again. One of them was a young man named Sith who wore glasses and had a heroic and calm face. Next to him was a middle-aged woman with a respectful face. Sure enough, the vampires took action. Sith looked at the direction in which the two vampires left. Joan, follow the plan. Okay, young master. The middle-aged woman lowered her head and replied. As the second heir of an ancient European family, Sith was promoted to the most promising heir to inherit the family's power after joining the Holy Fist Palace. During this period, the first heir had been defeated by his overt and covert means. It was simply impossible to resist. The Sith also gradually mastered part of the family's hidden power with the help of the Fighting Club. It is said that the Sleepless Mask has some kind of strange energy that can strengthen the body's physical fitness. Maybe we can intercept one in private and study it, the middle-aged woman suggested. It's not necessary. Sith shook his head. As for the status of the family heir, he valued the status and position of the Holy Fist Palace more. That was the source of his power. The mask is something that Master Fistmaster personally wants. We can't give it to him. The more powerful the Holy Fist teacher is, the more influence and improvement we, as members of the Holy Fist Palace, will have. In fact, he was a little moved in his heart, but considering the risk of possible discovery, the risk was not proportional to the benefits. Even if he gets the mask and becomes stronger, can he still be stronger than Fist Saint Garen Sensei? That was obviously impossible, and it might also cause others in the palace to become suspicious due to the unusual progress. Moreover, the most critical point is that Kabu of the Bailey Group has been unable to research anything after getting the mask for so many years. It is obviously unrealistic for him to research the content in such a short time. Okay, let's proceed as planned. Yes. The middle-aged woman responded in a low voice and began to take out her mobile phone to issue coded instructions. Soon, a large number of people hiding in Lulan Mountain, the capital of Khazar, gradually began to take action. Hundreds of tourists moved covertly towards the Garo temple, directly surrounding the entire temple in a secretive way. Then there was no movement, just waiting slowly for the moment when the vampire inside came out. These tourists are the elites of the Sith who have surrendered to their families and sent them to the Holy Fist Palace to study and train. Although they are not as powerful as the official members of the Holy Fist Palace and can fight vampires one-on-one without losing, these tourists, the training that the personnel undergo is mainly human control training for vampires, plus some special courses for dealing with high-speed opponents, plus special venom bullets carried on the hands. This kind of toxin bullet is also a toxin specially developed by human forces after the last conference in the Holy Fist Palace to target the physique of vampires. Combined with the toxins that once worked on the body of Elder Wellington, after optimizing the raw material formula, a very cost-effective vampire has been formed. Toxin: the vampire who is shot will have symptoms of weakness. Although it is not life-threatening, the weakened vampire is just a matter of one shot for ordinary people. I don't know how long it took. Coming, suddenly a low voice came out. It's an Austrian-German accent. Tisk 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 tisk. In an instant, the sound of silenced pistols erupted like raindrops. Dense toxin bullets shot into the night sky above the wall. At this moment, two dark figures suddenly appeared there. They were the two vampires who had gone in to follow them. They happened to appear in the direction where countless bullets were fired. There was no time to avoid them. The two of them were like broken sacks in mid-air. It was directly beaten into a sieve, and fell down with two bangs. The Sith waved. "Take it away, get out of here immediately." The men who had been lurking here quickly rushed over and dragged the two vampires up, searched out their belongings, put them into two sacks and carried them away. The movements are extremely skillful. Everyone, including the Sith, also quickly evacuated here. The process from shooting to leaving took less than a minute. The efficiency was jaw-dropping. At the same time, at the main entrance of the temple, an old monk wearing a yellow cassock was slowly walking out of the main hall and walking from the side towards the stupa at the back. He looked pious, and every step he took, he would exchange a slight clasped hands with the monk resting next to him. Soon, he came to the stupa forest, put his hands together with the old monk guarding the stupa, and walked into the stupa forest to inspect as usual. After walking along the normal road for a while, no one was around. The old monk suddenly stretched out his hand and gently tore off his face. He actually tore off the entire face, revealing the terrible burns underneath. The skin is surprisingly that of Holy Fist Palace Dhamma from far away in the United States. He looked around, quickly locked in a direction and walked into the Talon. He came to a somewhat deserted stupa. After groping on the ground for a few times, he directly opened the cover of a mother book, revealing a dark underground below. Passage, this is what he gained from lurking and pretending to be here during the recent period. However, it seems that someone has stepped forward first, and there are signs that someone has entered the tunnel. Dam didn't panic. He just took off his monk's robes and put on a set of close-fitting black clothes. He went directly into the tunnel like a ghost and took the cassock with his backhand to close the cover, hiding himself again in his original hidden appearance. The seventh mask was definitely in this underground palace, but he could predict that this mask would definitely not be easy to get. Holy Fist Palace. The seventh mask should be similar to the sixth mask. With the guardian Garen rubbed the sixth mask in his hand. No matter how we try to back up, the lack of high-end strength is a fact that cannot be concealed. Sith and Dam rushed over in the dark and in the dark. There may be hope of success, Tu Lan replied. According to Patriarch Wellington's habit, he will definitely send people to snatch other masks in advance. So you'd better be mentally prepared for this. Do they know about the other masks? Garen asked. Of course, the possibility is very high, Tu Lan nodded. The two of them were sitting face to face in the restaurant eating dinner. The small meat patties smeared with black sauce were stacked into pieces. The fragrant soup poured down from the top, and the hot aroma of minced meat was exuded. The tender lamb chops, veal steak, stewed mushroom soup, sweet salmon with truffles. Various dishes were placed in front of him, but only Tu Lan enjoyed eating them, while Jialong had no appetite. Dam should have successfully entered the underground dungeon now. If everything goes well, he should be able to obtain the mask. Just be wary of the Blood Clan's actions, Garen frowned. He has recently been practicing the Holy Phoenix scripture, and has made good progress with the magic book. The Holy Phoenix scripture is actually just a true meaning, divided into 3 levels and 9 realms, each realm corresponding to a spiritual form. In other words, it is a form of visualization that allows one's own mental transformation to imagine a certain powerful image. The true meaning of the Holy Phoenix indeed played a great role in promoting the formation of his soul seed. According to his estimation, as long as he reaches the 2nd level of the Holy Phoenix scripture, he can completely condense the soul seeds. But this practice method is completely different from his previous secret martial arts. The core of the practice of the true meaning of the Holy Phoenix lies in one meaning. Each state has an inexplicable and strange creature image. It needs to be completely visualized successfully before proceeding to the next state. After this kind of visualization is successful, one can even transform one's own spirit into the same powerful creature in spiritual battles, and attack the opponent to achieve a powerful killing effect. But as this kind of visualization gradually deepened, Garen vaguely felt that there seemed to be some mysterious thread connected to his body. This thread seemed to be caused by practicing the Holy Phoenix scripture. Faintly, he felt that the true meaning of the Holy Phoenix was probably related to the Mother River. Hesaz also agrees with this. The way of practicing the true meaning of the Holy Phoenix is obviously a pure way of practice that is separated from the material, and it is a pure spiritual civilization method. Therefore, it is no wonder that they would create a big killer like the Buddha Mother, because their own physical fitness may be far weaker than spiritual development. In other words, it is to use the creation of foreign objects to make up for the lack of combat power of one's own body. This is a pure spiritual practice. From the source, the Mother River is a great and miraculous river that naturally stores the highest realm of true spirit. Hesaz guessed that the Holy Phoenix scripture and the Buddha Mother were probably the survivors who survived the Mother River and entered this world just like him. Or the lost ones. In this world, you may never find enough resources to break through to the Legion level. Even if you reach the second soul seed level, without the support of the comprehensive development of the body, unless your spirit can be strong enough to approach the realm of true spirit, otherwise you won't be able to compete with Nadia's increasingly tyrannical strength. Hesaz whispered in Garen's ear. The three major stages of the soul, I have passed the ordinary soul stage, and now I am at the second stage of soul seed level. How can I become a true soul? Garen asked via message. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 740. True Spirit, don't be kidding, even when we were at the peak of the Demon King level, we didn't dare to say that we had achieved true spirituality. That is just a luxury wish, and only the great achievers among the ancient magicians can reach this point. The spirit alone can distort reality, and just speaking their names can activate magical power. The horror of true spirits is unimaginable. The second stage of the soul seed has to go through many small stages, Hesaz explained. We call the soul seed stage the soul seed stage, which is divided into 7 color soul seed stages. According to the colors of the rainbow, the colors of the soul seeds exactly correspond to the 7 stages of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. Each stage has a number of seeds. Requirements: at least 5 soul seeds must be collected to finally merge into the next color stage. And it's too early, you haven't even condensed the second soul seed in the basic colorless stage. After you condense more than 5 soul seeds in the colorless stage, there will be a resonance or repulsion effect between the 5 soul seeds. Eliminate the uncoordinated impurities and superfluous things, and only after the final fusion can we enter the true 7-color stage. As there are more seeds, each seed is the condensation of a major insight in your life. The more seeds there are, the different useless things will be eliminated. In the end, the remaining ones will be similar, that is, the soul is relatively pure and adheres to the rules. Part, and then fuse the seeds in this state to enter the next stage. It's really far away. Garen also deeply understood why Hesaz had always said that he was still too early. From this point of view, it was indeed too early. It is so difficult to reach the true spirit stage. No wonder there are so many tyrannical beings in Guyanduo, but no demon king has squeezed into the true spirit stage. Actually, our demon king level has only reached the realm of green soul species. At this level, the mental pressure alone can crush the Legion level. You must also understand that only the soul realm, After being highly concentrated, can we not be immune to the effects of time and space travel? In case of damage, the body will be adjusted due to the rules of time and space in the universe, but the soul, especially a highly condensed soul, is difficult to suffer major damage. This is the direction of true eternal pursuit. Garen was lost in thought. Tulan didn't pay attention until he left after eating. If Hesaz's description is followed, then he has only condensed a soul seed so far, and this was condensed by chance in the totem world. Don't think too much. The aggregation of soul seeds comes from great insights. The reason why you are taking such a slow route is mainly because there was no targeted development in this area before, and this kind of insight needs to be profound to a certain extent. To truly condense, there are many times when you may have some understanding just by looking at a painting, listening to a song, and discovering a pattern of knowledge, and you may be able to condense your soul seeds. And there are times when you just can't get it together no matter what. You really don't have to think too much, it's still too far away from me. Garen nodded. He stood up from the restaurant. It was already night outside. He walked towards the constant temperature pool of the Holy Fist Palace. The area here was very large. The entire Holy Fist Palace was as big as a small town. Originally there were only a few large buildings. Later, due to its importance, as it became stronger and stronger, it began to expand continuously, and now the entire Holy Fist Palace almost occupies the entire top of this mountain peak. He has his own private warm water supply pool, and several other important figures also have similar warm water pools. After passing through several side halls and entering the bathing area, the sounds of students laughing and playing also came from the public bathing area on the other side. Under the guidance of a service girl, Garen put on his yukata and walked into the independent pool to soak in it. At this time every day, he would choose to enter here to soak in the warm water and relax his whole body. More than 10 minutes later, the mobile phone beside him rang. This was a routine reporting call. Garen picked up the mobile phone placed on the white stone platform on the shore. The number comes from Ningruoxi. Press the answer key. Teacher? There have been vampires here recently. Do you want to bring Sister Raphael here? Zixi's voice came from the other side of the phone. Ningruoxi was sent to Grandeur by Galen to protect Raphael, and would report the situation to Galen every once in a while. If she is willing, Garen replied in a deep voice. Raphael also had important people of his own, and it was impossible for him to let them all move here together. Just like the Holy Fist Palace, there are more than single digits of important people living here now. If everyone moves their important people here, then no matter how big this place is, it won't be enough to live in. Granda. Ningruoxi looked at the witches who were gradually surrounding her with a wry smile. Under the night, these witches were holding things similar to fluorescent sticks in their hands, and they were surrounding her from all directions in the woods. Her protection was misunderstood by them as surveillance, which almost led to a conflict. Raphael stood in front of her, staring intensely at the phone in her hand. Zixi felt a little frustrated. She still didn't understand the methods of the witches, so even though she had power close to a superior level, she was still accidentally discovered by them. After getting a reply from the phone call, Ningruoxi looked at the blonde woman standing in front of her. Want to talk to the teacher? She put down the phone and handed it over. Raphael looked at the phone in her hand, was silent for a while, and shook her head. I'm going to see him. Her long golden hair shone even under the moonlight, as if it were draped with flowing golden threads. Are you really from the Holy Fist Palace? She still didn't believe it. Of course, Ningruoxi said helplessly. Raphael looked a little confused. She has always been aware of the sudden rise of the Holy Fist Palace, a powerful force of human warriors. The leader is known as the Fist Saint. He is a top Death Apostle level master who can protest against the vampire clan as a human being. Although she also knows that the Fist Saint is also called Xia Long, but she didn't connect her ex-boyfriend Galen with this Galen at all. What I didn't expect now is that the two galleons are actually one. Hearing Ningruoxi's admission at this time, the surrounding witches also looked slightly shocked. They also knew that the leader once had a beautiful first love, and the other party was an ordinary boy. Now it seems that the other party is actually an extremely powerful death. The existence that was like the top of the disciple level made some witches who were already jealous of Raphael even more jealous. Raphael was born the granddaughter of the leader of witches, and she was very talented. Even if she found a boyfriend, she would be a high-ranking death apostle level tyrannical being. Why should she take all the good things by herself? Raphael suppressed the shock in her heart, turned her head and said a few words to her trusted witch, telling her to tell her grandmother that the possible impact of this incident could not be estimated. The Holy Fist Palace and the vampire clan are now at odds with each other. The teacher is worried that the vampire clan may use all possible means to take extreme measures against you, so let me protect you secretly and take you to the Holy Fist Palace if necessary. Ningruoxi, seeing that Raphael did not resist leaving grandeur, I couldn't help but feel slightly relieved. After she relaxed, she began to carefully look at Raphael, the teacher's former girlfriend. With a delicate face, confident and beautiful appearance, and long golden tassel-like hair draped over her shoulders, she seems to be able to radiate warm sunshine, giving people a dazzling and strong sense of presence. The strength is almost close to the middle level. Ningruoxi sighed slightly in her heart. She felt a little uncomfortable when she thought that Raphael might get back together with her teacher after arriving at the Holy Fist Palace. Looking at Raphael, he felt slightly unhappy. "Get ready, when are we leaving?" she asked directly. "As soon as possible." Raphael thought for a moment and then replied. Although she didn't understand why the other party suddenly looked a little unkind, she also understood the possible troubles that might arise. "I don't need to prepare anything, I can set off at any time." "Okay. Let's leave now," Ningruoxi nodded. The seaside of a peninsula in Asia. At night, the sea is dark and deep, and occasionally there is the sound of waves crashing against the rocks. The deserted seaside is full of dark, steep rocks. Some of these rocks are large and some are small. The big ones are piled together in succession, with large gaps between them. Sea water rushes in through these gaps, leaving behind many sea creatures, being blocked inside. At this time, a group of figures in black clothes were quickly changing their clothes in the gap between the large rocks. They took off their black windbreakers and put on the frogman clothes in the prepared package, carrying large capacity oxygen bottles on their backs. There were about 8 or 9 people in this group. They all moved quickly and had all kinds of tools. They were obviously well prepared. "Today, our 4th team's mission has been completed by searching this area," a figure whispered. "The thing you are looking for is definitely offshore? Why is there still no movement after searching for so long? Dozens of groups of people are looking for it. It has been almost half a month and there is still no sign," another figure asked casually. "Who knows? Anyway, we just do what the higher-ups arrange for us to do. Brother Sue, let's go." Henry, a frogman next to him, had already dressed and threw a mask to each of them. The group of people put on masks and quietly plunged into the sea along the gaps between the rocks, and quickly disappeared on the sea surface like fish. On the sea more than 10 nautical miles away from the reef coast, small warships and fishing boats with their sweeping lampposts constantly cruising on the sea seemed to be patrolling, or they seemed to be driving slowly past here. In the direction of backlight, these boats would occasionally stop for a while, and then a few frogmen would come up, and soon more frogmen would enter the water. Over and over again, wave after wave of people continue to go to the sea and board the ship. On the other far coast, there are also teams of frogmen carrying oxygen bottles and plunging into the sea. A large number of people are constantly searching the sea area. Hundreds of nautical miles to the left of the sea area of these search team ships, there is a luxury white ship like a cruise ship. Haseman and two young women in red and black dresses were chatting and laughing while holding onto the railing of the boat, making the two women cover their mouths and smile softly from time to time. There were well-dressed men and women chatting politely everywhere on the cruise ship, making it seem like a luxurious place where upper-class people gathered. Music was constantly playing in the lobby of the main cabin, beautiful and hot fashion beauties were coming in and out, and neatly dressed white waiters were constantly serving delicious food. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 741. This was an entertainment gathering after the Asian Financial Summit to which Hosman was invited. The cruise ship was provided by a financial tycoon in Asia. He always attended such financial gatherings on behalf of his family. As the first heir of the family's property, he was as popular as a beauty, handsome and talented in the eyes of the beauties at the gathering. Worth a lot of money, can be regarded as the most typical single diamond king. There are many girls who are willing to interact with him. There are also many lesser business tycoons who want to get in touch with him. Even in this continent-wide business gathering, without revealing the identity of Hosman's Holy Fist Palace, just the status of his family is one of the best among them. Only a few people can compare with him in terms of status. While casually chatting and joking with the two ladies, Haseman was also slightly distracted by the news reports coming from his earphones. Asia is not only the place where the seventh mask is located, but also intelligence shows that this is also the area where the eighth and ninth masks are scattered. After spending a lot of energy and connections for this, Hosman obtained a rough sea area, which may be where the two masks were originally drop location. He quickly mobilized family manpower and began a large-scale offshore search. In the world of ordinary people, he, Horseman, is just the first heir of a large American business family and a top student in a world-famous school. Even if he succeeds in the extraordinary world and achieves a high-level reputation for strength, for ordinary people, to put it bluntly, even some powerful business tycoons are unlikely to be able to reach his level. After all, there are too few existences in the extraordinary world. There may not be more than 10,000 witches in the entire United States. There may be even fewer in Europe. The number of vampires is already small, and witches have geographical restrictions. They cannot leave their ancestral home, otherwise their power will be greatly reduced. As for those top martial arts masters who are hidden in the world, they are not the kind of lunatics who pursue the ultimate in martial arts. They cannot reach the level of breaking through the limits of the human body in a human body, and they will not waste boring time on fighting. This results in the fact that the entire circle of the extraordinary world is not known to more than 90% of the world's people. Many people only have a rough feeling that the water inside is very deep, but they shy away from touching it out of fear. Only those with great influence can truly access the circle. In normal times, some mysterious events around the world are caused by the circle. Most people in the world have an ostrich mentality. Coupled with witchcraft such as memory cleaning and the human control technology of the vampires, memory erasure almost makes it even more difficult. The vampires are almost out of touch with the world. Every time he thought about this, Haseman felt as if he was suddenly separated from another world. A moment ago, he was running around for the Holy Fist Palace and worried about the vampire raid. At this moment, it was as if he had suddenly returned to the carefree life he once had as an ordinary person. Beauty, wine, food, gambling, drugs, sex, surfing, bungee jumping, black boxing, raising all kinds of extremely dangerous pets as bragging rights, etc., etc., all kinds of exciting, you can play whatever you want. This was his life, depraved and aimless, full of corruption and enjoyment. And now, Haseman stretched out his right hand and shook it gently. He truly felt that a powerful force was constantly circulating in his body. This is what I want. As if nothing had happened, he continued to chat with the two tycoons' daughters with a calm expression. Occasionally, envious glances would come from around him, and some people would point at them from a distance to introduce their identities to their nephews. I heard that Mr. Horseman once inspected Cato Trading Company. I wonder what impression he has of my father's group. The speaker was a girl in a red dress walking from the other side. He was arrogant, with curly black hair spread over his shoulders, and an elite diamond pendant on his fair neck. Haseman looked at the other person carefully and immediately recognized the other person's identity. Cato Trading Company's eldest daughter, Mune Tariko. Cato Trading Company is a world-class financial group. It is also one of the top 100 top groups in Asia and the world. It is a behemoth that can be compared with the original Color, Lesserty and other groups, and its fields span multiple industries and countless assets. Such a big shot did not expect to come to this Asian summit, which made Haseman slightly surprised. Mune Kariko's identity is even more dazzling than that of his family. He had not been seen before. He had obviously just boarded the ship, or he had stayed in the room and did not come out. After thinking for a moment, Hoseman considered answering the other party's question. It turned out to be Miss Tariko, Cato Trading Company, which really impressed me very much, especially the management with a very clear hierarchical system, which is worth learning from. The other two women were slightly surprised when they heard the girl's identity, and they took the initiative to say goodbye and leave. Only two people were left standing on the side of the ship talking. It seems that Mr. Haseman has a good impression of my father's group. Maybe we will have opportunities to cooperate with each other. Sakariko smiled. What do you mean? Haseman frowned slightly. Zangariko looked at the man in front of her. He was handsome, confident, strong, and dangerous. She was obviously a black belt in karate, but she always felt an inexplicable sense of crisis in front of this person, as if she were standing in front of a ferocious beast. It is said that Hoseman once killed a polar bear with his bare hands. It seems that the information is indeed true. After restraining her mind, Zangaraizi admired Hoseman even more. If she had to choose marriage, she would prefer to choose the man in front of her who was more powerful than her. I heard that you are looking for a set of ancient masks lost in this area, Litsi asked softly. In terms of search, my family may be able to help you with ocean vessels. Of course, manpower is not a problem either. Oh, Haseman raised his eyebrows. Now everyone in the Holy Fist Palace knows that Garen is looking for the mask of Sleepless Face. Everyone is mobilizing their own strength to find the mask. In this case, he can only rely on his own strength to search. Whoever finds the mask first will send it to him. It is said that you will get the martial arts personally taught by the boxing master, and at least you will be rewarded with extending your life and strengthening your body. It is said that Dama was rewarded last time. The injured skin all over his body also took on a new look in a short period of time, becoming whiter and more delicate. After examination with medical equipment, it was found that his body functions were much stronger than before. The estimated maximum lifespan has also been extended by a full 10 years, which means that the lifespan has been extended by 10 years. Curing illnesses and strengthening the body has attracted the hearts of many big shots who suffer from old illnesses. In addition, Shengquan personally teaches martial arts, which has also attracted the hearts of many people who pursue strength. Suddenly there were many more people searching for masks. What do you mean? Haseman knew that it was impossible to give without reason. We hope to get your support in our North American business, Zangaraizi answered calmly. Horseman was slightly understanding. He also heard that Cato Trading Company was financially blocked by a mysterious group in North America and was unable to successfully expand its business and take root. You can consider it, but my family is here. Before he could finish his words, a short report suddenly came from the earphones. Found. 2 masks. Ha ha ha. The 20 million bonus is ours. Ah, before the cheers in the earphones completely disappeared, a burst of rapid screams were heard. What monster? Shoot. Shoot. No. There was a click, and a cracking sound came from the earphones. It was obvious that the communication device had been trampled to pieces. Hasseman's expression suddenly darkened. The vampires really took action. Mr. Hasseman, Munihoriko in front of him waved her hand in front of his eyes. Marshal, we were attacked by vampires, and they are coming towards you. Be careful, an anxious voice came from other channels in the headset. Understood, do you know the other party's strength? Hoseman raised his hand to signal Sukiriko to wait. The detector shows that it's high. There are at least 2 people, the voice on the other side suddenly sounded very low. Zinran was afraid of being heard by the vampires. Hurry. Get on the boat soon. Hasseman's face was gloomy, and there was an extremely dangerous aura about him. It seems that the vampires are well prepared. Leave me alone and retreat first. I will be there soon. Understood, the earphones were disconnected. Hoseman moved his neck and glanced at the puzzled Miss Sakariko in front of him. He had just spoken in German, not the standard international communication English, and the other party could not understand him at all. Are you in a hurry? Zangariko asked doubtfully. Do you need my help? Hoseman, you can't escape today. Suddenly a loud male voice echoed from the cruise ship. A fiery red figure suddenly appeared at the top of the cruise ship. It was a red-haired man with strong muscles. He was wearing a red leather jacket, black sunglasses at night, and a coxcomb hairstyle on his head. He jumped down from the top of dozens of meters high. Bang! The ship's deck was actually very strong, with no dents at all. The man stood up, waved his right hand, and countless red flames gathered in his hand, suddenly condensing into a long red sword. Countless mysterious symbols appeared densely on the sword. Sword of Dawn, he groaned softly. In an instant, under the stunned gazes of the bodyguards who were surrounded by guests, the red sword exploded with a large burst of red flames, transforming into a slim flaming woman, and rushed towards Hasseman like lightning. At the same time, in the shadow behind Hoseman, a dark female shadow slowly emerged and condensed. Is it a holy weapon of the Blood Clan? Hasseman took a step back and opened his right hand. The invisible airflow quickly gathered in the palm of his hand, causing his hair to flip continuously. Faintly, a faint black color appeared in his eyes. Under the firelight, the shadow behind him suddenly distorted and turned into a huge black shadow dragon head, silently surrounding him. Frightened by the surging air and flames, Zangarizu retreated repeatedly. She sat down on the ground, raised her hands in front of her, and stared blankly at everything in front of her. The incident completely developed in a way that she could not understand. She was filled with pain all over her body. Dense goosebumps arose, which were the shivers caused by the extremely dangerous cold. Although the flames swept through and brought intense heat, she only felt waves of coldness. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 742. Mysterious Meaning. Argument. Looking at the flaming figure flying towards him like lightning, Hoseman threw his right hand forward. In an instant, he cut the air with his hand and shot out several transparent air blades. The half-moon-shaped air blade whizzed and spun towards the flaming figure. Boom! The flaming figure and the air blade collided with each other, causing a violent explosion. Red flames swept around, flooding the deck instantly like a tide. Some of the bodyguards in the crowd who couldn't dodge were infected, and they suddenly turned into burning people and howled miserably. Some people were knocked away by the violent shockwave and stuck to the cabin, with blood oozing out from all 5 senses. There were screams, painful wails, and panic, no matter adults or children. All of a sudden, the entire crowd finally erupted. After the flames dissipated, Hasseman covered his shoulder with one hand. The back of his right shoulder was pierced by a black arrow. There was no bleeding or any wounds. Even the black arrow slowly disappeared and became transparent. But what troubled him was that the muscles where the arrow penetrated completely lost all feeling, And he didn't even feel a bit, as if he had completely lost his shoulder. Even his right hand was somewhat weak. Two vampire sacred artifacts. A sense of crisis arose in his heart. It would be okay if it was just one. It would be no problem to deal with them head on. However, two high-ranking vampires, both of whom were actual combat types, were holding terrifyingly powerful vampire sacred artifacts. Just like the original two big men were fighting, and everyone was using their bare hands. Suddenly, a big man had a sharp short knife in his hand. This knife was still untouchable. Stupa Underground Palace. Dam moved forward quickly, making several turns like lightning, and advanced and retreated like the wind in the tunnel of the underground palace. The air here is rancid and the light is dim. Only the flashlight he carries forms a beam of light. Not long after, he quickly stopped in front of a sacred urn where a statue of a god was enshrined. The sacred urn is located in the underground hall of a dark supermarket, surrounded by weird Buddhist murals. Fishan, regardless of gender, are everywhere. Their bodies are red, but their eyes are all green, reflecting green in the darkness. Flashlight light. The statue in the urn is a bald man with three eyes, with his right palm erect, smiling, and his eyes slightly closed, but for some reason it gives people a strange feeling. This is not any statue of Buddha. Dhamma frowned slightly. The underground palace in the Buddhist stupa forest did not enshrine the statue of the powerful Buddha in Buddhism, but an unknown statue. He had been lurking here for a while, and had a rough understanding of the Buddha information of Buddhism, but he did not find any branch of the Buddha that would have the appearance of the sacred urn in front of him. But all worries disappeared completely when he saw a slightly black mask enshrined in front of the statue. He quickly walked to the mask, picked up the things and stuffed them into the black bag he had prepared, and then tied them close to his body. He glanced left and right, quickly backed away, and ran along the way he came. Suddenly, a red light flashed from the darkness and struck him head on. The red light was like lightning, but it had already reached the front of the face the moment it was seen. The sharp and cold breath made the pores on Dam's face shrink instantly, and he even felt a slight pain. Instinctively, his feet stopped and he stepped back. At the same time, he suddenly clasped his hands together and pinched them on both sides of the red light. He could see clearly that it was a long red knife, but it reflected the light of the flashlight in the darkness and glowed with a striking red light. Clang! The palm of the hand came into contact with the red knife, and the red knife blade was accurately sandwiched between them. But at this moment, a red light flew out of the red knife blade and hit Dam hard in the face. Bang! He let go of his hands and staggered back a few steps, blood dripping to the ground from his hands covering his face. Ah! A scream. My face, my beauty! Dam covered his face with his hands, but blood couldn't stop dripping from between his fingers. He finally regained his beauty from the teacher, and now someone ruined his face again. I'm going to tear you apart. Damu suddenly let go of his hand, his eyes suddenly turned blood red, and the blood-colored energy all over his body exploded, with traces of black filaments swimming around in it. His figure flashed, and the ground collapsed silently. He suddenly disappeared from where he was, bringing out a blood-red afterimage and heading straight towards the direction where the red knife struck. In an instant, there was a sudden surge of air in this dark and narrow hall, and the huge momentum trembled, directly occupying all the positions and spaces that could be occupied. Amidst the continuous explosions of clang, 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 and clank. Dam's palms turned blood red as if they were metal, and they continuously collided with the red knife. He laughed crazily and horribly, and brought out countless afterimages of his hands, crashing into the darkness. The other party didn't even worry that his palm would be cut open if it came into contact with the blade. In the darkness, the owner of the red knife slowly appeared. Suddenly he was a middle-aged man with a full beard. He was wearing a black windbreaker, a white shirt and jeans underneath. The long red knife in his hand accurately took Dam's every seemingly innocent blow. The backlash of rules and regulations. The man's expression was indifferent, as if he was completely indifferent to Dam's madness. No matter how fast the opponent hides, no matter how fierce and crazy, his long red knife flies up and down, as accurately as intercepting bullets, and can catch all Dam's attacks without missing a beat. Clang! There was a crisp sound, and Dam was knocked back and flew away by the huge counter-attack force that broke out in an instant. Bloody Marshal Dam, the bearded man, held a knife in one hand and stabbed it into the ground of the underground palace. He took out a lighter and a cigarette from his trouser pocket, lit it in his mouth, and took a deep breath. Sure enough, my judgment was right. Although your burst is powerful, its staying power is too weak. His falcon-like eyes immediately focused on Dam opposite him, and the darkness could not block his sight. He could clearly see Dam's chest rising and falling violently. In the series of attacks and defenses the two had just carried out, each time they used their full strength without any reservation. Although the power of this is terrifying, the energy consumption is absolutely staggering. Are you despising me by putting down your weapons in front of me? Dam's face was hidden in the darkness, as if he had finally vented his anger and calmed down. What do you think? The bearded man reached out to hold the cigarette, took a puff, and blew out 2 columns of smoke from his nostrils. Wait until I kill you, break through to the Death Apostle level, and then kill that galleon, and then set off a big firework there. Bang, he made an action imitating an explosion, everything will be quiet. Court death. Damu's figure instantly turned into a red shadow and rushed out. In the next moment, the blood-colored energy all over his body condensed a little, shrunk and concentrated on his hands. Tisk tisk tisk. Several transparent and slender silk strings were ejected, covering the entire hall. Like an explosion, a large number of silk strings erupted in horror, flying and cutting into every corner of the hall. These strings are extensions of Damu. As long as they touch the body, they can instantly cause a blood explosion. This is also Damu's most terrifying all-round attack. Faced with countless silk strings that were completely enveloped, the bearded man took a deep breath from the cigarette, and the butt suddenly lit up. Clang! His right hand actually instantly pulled out the long knife on the ground and slashed forward. From drawing out the sword to slashing it out, there was no continuity of movement at all, as if the handle of the sword appeared directly in his hand instantly, or he never put down the weapon from the beginning. The red sword flashed, and it hit countless silk strings head-on. With a bang, he cut off the flaming figure with the air blade. The vampire clan has been planning for a long time and must leave immediately. Hasimon knew clearly in his heart that the vampire clan would never simply send these 2 people out. It's likely that a surefire solution is already in place. If it were him, he would definitely surround him on 3 sides, leaving only one side to chase and kill so that the prey could get injured and escape, barely able to see a glimmer of hope, consume his physical strength, and finally win easily, surrounded by 3 enemies. The red-haired man standing opposite laughed evilly and began to swing the flaming sword again. Tisk tisk tisk. Several flames spewed out from the sword in succession. These flames fell to the ground and continued to burn. As they burned, they kept arching and deforming like plasticine, and turned into short female flaming figures. The attack forms are exactly the same. In the blink of an eye, 3 more female flame figures appeared on the field. They opened their mouths and roared, but there was only the whirring sound of flames. With a flash of red light, 3 flaming human figures rushed towards him, while the red-haired man in the distance slowly retreated, and unexpectedly began to wave his sword again and again, sprinkling out several flaming humanoid figures. With a gloomy look on his face, Hassan suddenly dodged to the left, and a black light shot out from behind, grazing his waist and passing through his clothes. He was almost shot. Without any time to think, he moved his fists and stepped forward with a forward punch. Bang! His step made a shallow dent in the deck, and the explosion was like a muffled thunder, making everyone's feet numb. I only saw a large black shadow bursting out from Hoseman's fist, and it stirred up in the air. Judging from the fluctuations, it turned out to be the same as the upright debate just now. Sure enough, with 3 chi-chi-chi sounds, 3 air blades burst out from Hoseman's fist and struck 3 flaming figures separately. Hassan used his momentum to rush towards the red-haired man, and then stepped hard on him. Boom! The deck shook, and Hassan's speed surged, with a huge impact like a tank. At the same time, the 3 flame humanoids were also cut off and scattered. Even the flames spilled from behind were shaken up, delaying the time it takes to form a human form. At this time, the red-haired man's expression changed slightly. He turned sideways to hide, but he didn't expect that Hoseman's speed suddenly increased again. There was another muffled sound, and a shallow pit was once again trampled on the deck. Hassan's figure instantly appeared in front of him, his strong arm raised and his knife slashing at him like a blade. The knife in his hand cut through the air, and it made an ear-piercing scream, like the sound of a fighter jet in the sky, and a faint white air trailed up from the back end of his palm. Bang! The red-haired man and horseman collided violently, like a tank hitting an elephant. The 2 of them rolled back and fell to the ground, just in time to avoid 2 black arrows flying from behind. For a while, the 2 of them were wrestling on the deck. The red-haired man was completely suppressed, and his forearms were constantly folded together. But every few seconds, the red-haired man would be punched hard in the chest, causing him to vomit blood. He could only block with the red longsword in front of him. Bang! His chest was suddenly punched through, but countless quickly produced flesh and blood suddenly wrapped Hoseman's arm in the middle and tied it tightly. Fire! He finally yelled. Taking advantage of this gap, a large amount of flames burst out from his body. It brought out a circle of flames and hit Hoseman hard. Bang! The 2 people separated suddenly, a red light shone, and a huge shockwave knocked Hoseman away directly. However, the direction in which he flew away was a bit strange. He turned in the air like a bat and fell directly to the sea. Don't let him get away, the red-haired man yelled. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 743. A black shadow instantly caught up with her, and it turned out to be the woman in black who had fired the cold arrow. She was a little slower. When the sound of falling water was heard from the side of the ship outside, she rushed to the side of the ship and looked at the surging black water below. Damn it, the woman in black slapped the side of the ship, and the edge of the ship's side was immediately bent by her, causing a deep dent. Boom! Suddenly, the side of the ship below her was smashed by a fist. The fist opened and turned into a palm, and she grabbed it hard. Bang! The face of the woman in black changed wildly, and her right leg was grabbed directly and pulled hard. She lost her balance and was pulled to the ground with a bang. Profound meaning. Random diversion, Hassan's deep voice came from the outside of the ship. In an instant, a ball of golden sparks lit up at the edge of the ship's side, and then there was the harsh sound of tearing metal. In a large cloud of sparks, that piece of the ship's side was torn apart, revealing the scene inside. Hassan slashed forward with both arms crazily, and the speed and power of each blow reached a terrifying level. Although it was not as violent as the white air scream just now, the sword in his hand was like a real blade, slashing hard. On female vampires. Blood spurted out all of a sudden. In just 1 second, Hoseman slashed forward 12 times, all of which fell on the female vampire, cutting her chest and abdomen until they were bloody and dented. Hoseman frowned as he kicked the female vampire away with a sudden kick. If it hadn't been for the sneak attack on his right shoulder, which caused him to lose the strength of his right hand, he could have torn the female vampire apart just now. He kicked off the damaged edge of the ship's side, and using the force, he fluttered his clothes like a night bat and shot out far away, falling on the sea. Before he fell into the sea, Hoseman's legs made explosion-like sounds one after another. White water splashes exploded under his feet, and it was astonishing that his legs stepped fiercely on the water. With this force, he stepped on the water like a water spider and rushed far away, exceeding more than 200 meters in an instant. The most important thing now is not to fight the two vampires, but to get the mask that the teacher needs and leave. Hoseman had a clear goal in mind and walked directly on the water. The terrifying explosive power of each blow produced a huge thrust, making he is faster than the fastest motorboat. The cruise ship behind her quickly became smaller and darker, becoming increasingly blurry under the night. Holy Fist Palace. Both marshals were attacked. Garen's hand that picked up the chess piece paused slightly, and then gently dropped it on the chessboard in front of him. He was playing chess with Tulan, sitting in a small quiet room of less than a few square meters. On the side is a large Jing character written on white paper and black ink, using Chinese characters. "Do you need me to take a look?" Tulan glanced at Galen and put down the chess piece. "There's no rush." Garen shook his head slightly. "Everyone has their own things to do." He gently put down the chess piece and lifted one of Tu Ian's dragons off, making Tu Ian's face turn green. Even the veteran vampires who have lived for so many years can only feel a kind of IQ crushing when facing Garen. There is no overall view, no other tricks, and only a little bit of local fighting. In any local fighting, Garen will win 9 times out of 10. His calculation power and deduction ability are simply outrageous. This kind of simple use of calculation power to crush people makes people not even think about resisting. So much so that Tulan feels a little psychological shadow when she sees the chessboard. Anyway, she is never won. Maybe my own chess skills are too weak. If I switch to a chess player who has a strong perspective on the overall situation, I will definitely win. Tulan comforted himself like this. "Are your people in place?" Garen suddenly asked confusedly. Tulan nodded. "It was in place 10 minutes ago." The two began to pack up the chess pieces and put them into the chess basket. "Wait a little longer." Garen put away the chess pieces, sat back on the chair with his eyes lowered, and actually began to close his eyes to rest. Really calm enough. Tulan couldn't help but take another look at him. The old vampires were attacking his two most important and powerful men, but he was still not in a hurry. Garen's expression was indifferent. In his mind, the black-shelled grimoire was slowly floating and rotating, and the whole body seemed to be emitting a faint golden light. Ever since he understood the true meaning of the Holy Phoenix, the grimoire has become like this. The magic book in reality records more and more martial arts step by step. Even the two new water bird fists deduced by Dam and Hoseman are also recorded by Garen. With this kind of recording, the magic book also records step by step. The steps are getting weirder and weirder. It was originally just an ordinary notebook, but it gradually became magical, directly connected with the grimoire in Garen's mind. There were many times when Garen felt that the grimoire seemed to be the soul seed that was being nurtured. Sometimes you can even feel it beating like a heart. Time passed by, and Garen sat still like an old monk, without any movement or even any change in his expression, as if he had fallen asleep while sitting. Boom! In the underground palace, long red knives and countless strings were clashing densely. There was no crisp sound between metals, only a muffled explosion formed by the superposition of countless sounds. Sicien retreated, but Beard did not retreat but advanced, rushing towards Dam. Mystery. Bloody night, Dam roared crazily, and countless silk strings suddenly emerged with a faint red color. It was a large amount of vigor that spread and flowed along the silk strings, covering the entire silk strings like liquid, forming a huge red network. Toward the beard. Tisk 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 tisk. A large number of silk strings rushed toward the beard with a terrifying sound of cutting the air. Some of the raised sculptural stone decorations in the hall were silently cut off after just being lightly brushed against the edge. Before the cut pieces could hit the ground, they were cut again by the silk strings that flew in and turned into several smaller pieces. Bang bang. The pieces exploded directly after being cut. This is Damu's most powerful explosive power. After improving on the water bird fist, he used a lot of resources to collect and organize martial arts information, and then used the most scientific deduction method to calculate and come up with the most powerful fighting method that suits him. Holy law! Wither! The light of the knife in Bearded's hand was like blood, facing the red silk screen head-on, like a bolt of lightning or a laser beam in the dark night. As soon as it lit up, it was already stuck on the big red net. The moment the red knife struck the silk string, a bright sword light lit up from top to bottom, and suddenly the entire silk screen was divided into two halves from top to bottom. Dam's face showed a solemn look for the first time. He waved his arms continuously, and several silk strings flew out again, 3 of which continued to be added to the severed silk strings, and the remaining one disappeared silently into the darkness, quietly passing behind the beard. Tisk. Above the bearded head, a large heavy boulder was cut directly by silk strings. Boom. Before the boulder fell, it was smashed to pieces by Luciu with a knife, turning into gravel and scattering like raindrops. I can't even remember how many years it has been. Except for the death apostles, not many vampires can withstand the 5th move in front of me. The bearded man took off his cigarette butt and puffed out the smoke. Let's see if you can make an exception today. The 4th move, the bearded pupils shrank, and an extremely dangerous aura emitted from his whole body, Red Lotus. The moment the sound rang out, Beard jumped up and shot directly in the direction of Dam. In mid-air, there was a loud bang around him, and 4 blood-red sword lights suddenly lit up. The sword lights continued to light up, and even began to rotate continuously, like a windmill being blown. The speed of rotation is getting faster and faster. Looking from a distance, it looks like a red lotus that is constantly turning. Boom boom boom. Gurren directly broke countless silk strings and approached Dam at high speed. At this moment, Damu felt for the first time that a life crisis was constantly stimulating his nerves. Unlike any other moment before, the real strength of the enemy in front of him was definitely far above him. There was such a terrifying high-ranking person in the vampire clan. Bloodlines. Even the dead apostles are probably no more than this. Looking at the rapidly approaching Gurren, various coping methods flashed through Dam's mind, but none of them allowed him to truly deal with the powerful enemy in front of him. His tough metal wire strings were like fragile ropes facing the opponent, breaking at the first touch. If it is a direct slash, it can also attack the bearded back with a sneak attack. But now it is rotating at high speed, and there are no flaws anywhere around it. For the first time, facing a single opponent for the first time, Dam felt like giving up. He suddenly thought of the information he had read not long ago. There were 5 major families in the vampire clan, and each of them had a unique holy method. But what is strange is that only 4 of the 5 families are dead apostles, and the last one is just a high-ranking vampire as the head of the family, and the information he has read is contacted. Dam's expression finally changed. The only head of the family who was not a dead apostle in the information suddenly had a beard. He was also said to use a long knife as a weapon. He was rumored to be a world-famous top sword master. Hong Lian quickly approached and was very close, but Damu wanted to get away, but it seemed as if he was being immobilized. There was actually an inexplicable gravitational force that held him firmly in place and unable to move. Damn it, Dam raised his hands wildly. In a life and death crisis, he couldn't care too much. If he didn't resist, he would be cut into countless pieces of meat. Mystery. The first star, a low, familiar voice stirred from his consciousness. Suddenly, Dam's eyes widened instantly, and he felt a violent force that was completely foreign to him but extremely familiar surged out of his body. Whoosh! Countless silk strings gathered in his hand in an instant and turned into a bloody spear, slowly floating on the side of his face. The evil phoenix soars. At this moment, Dam finally realized the most powerful and terrifying secret of the original water bird fist. Countless gentle breezes floated up, and warmth brushed across my face, as if some sound was slowly echoing in the wind. Did you hear that? That's the sound of the wind. Dam closed his eyes unconsciously. At that moment, a bird chirped. Gurren froze in mid-air and stopped less than 1 meter in front of Dam. In the red light, his pupils shrank suddenly, and an extreme sense of crisis suddenly hit his body. The hair on his body stood up. In the reflection of his red pupils, a pair of huge transparent airflow wings slowly emerged behind Dam. Retreat. As soon as this idea came up, the overwhelming wind was blowing in front of me. There seemed to be something inexplicable mixed in the wind. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 744. Holy Fist Palace. Garen suddenly opened his eyes. Time is up. He looked at Tu Lan, who was also sitting next to him. Go ahead and I'll make it up to you. Are you sure? Tu Lan exhaled, shook his head helplessly, and stood up. Forget it, just think I'm being generous for once. She walked out of the quiet room and walked towards her independent residence. Galen sat alone in the quiet room with an indifferent expression, his fingers gently stroking the chess basket in deep thought. It's getting closer. Hessaz whispered. His voice has rarely appeared recently. He is no longer as talkative as before. Instead, he has become more and more silent, and he feels like he cherishes his words like gold. The old blood clan united to deal with you, and the strength they can send out is not ordinary. Are you really not worried at all? There are at least 10 high-ranking vampires in the 5 major holy families at the beginning. The Wellington family had 3 high-ranking officials. If you add the sacred weapon, your people will suffer heavy losses. Garen shook his head. Everything has been arranged. If something still goes wrong, I can't do anything about it. As I said before, the Holy Fist Palace is still very weak against the entire Old Blood clan. So even if they are ambushed, I can't leave here. I've always had an inexplicable feeling lately. You'd better not get involved with others, Hessaz reminded. Oh? Why? Garen was slightly stunned. I don't know why, it's just a feeling. Hessaz's voice gradually disappeared into the air and no longer sounded. Garen stood alone in the quiet room, a trace of doubt flashing in his eyes. The violent wind blew against the inner walls of the underground palace hall from all directions, and the entire underground palace was shaking and shaking violently. Buzz. Dam's eyes were misty, and his whole body was involuntarily carried up by the wings. The transparent wings kept vibrating, and the red spear floating beside him was like a red spear, and he grabbed it in his hand. Circles of transparent ripples spread out from the tip of the gun, which was the powerful effect of the violent vibration of the air. The beard was directly fixed in mid-air by the violent surge of air, unable to move at all. At this moment, his whole body seemed to be directly tied by invisible ropes. What kind of move is this? The bearded expression suddenly calmed down and he looked quietly at Dam below. Laugh. The red spear suddenly shot out a red line. Tisk. Tisk 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 tisk. In an instant, a large piece of red silk string burst out from the spear, rushing towards the bearded man from all directions. With a pop, just in the blink of an eye, the bearded person was suspended in mid-air, and was completely penetrated by countless silk strings and turned into a bloody man. This time, you win, came the deep voice with a beard. With a bang, his whole body turned into a ball of blood mist, disappearing completely. Countless blood-threaded strings also fell down, turning back into ordinary invisible and transparent colors. Everything is settled. The confusion in Dam's eyes slowly came to his senses. He stared blankly at his hands, then at the broken strings scattered everywhere on the floor of the hall, and took a deep breath. "This is the power that the teacher has hidden in my body," he murmured, suddenly feeling weak, and the feeling of full strength in his body suddenly disappeared. He managed to walk under the location where the beard exploded, but he didn't find any of the items he left behind, only a few fragments of clothing. Didn't he kill him? But at least he was seriously injured. Tightening the mask in his hand, he suddenly felt fine pieces of sand falling from his head. This place is about to collapse. We must leave quickly. Gritting his teeth and summoning up the last strength of his body, Dam quickly turned into an afterimage and rushed toward the exit. Not long after he left, the bearded figure reappeared in the shadow of a corner to the right of the place where the beard disappeared. His whole body was covered with blood holes penetrated by silk strings. Only his head was not penetrated. Other parts of the body, including the heart, are no exception. At this time, he looked extremely weak, only supporting his body with a long red knife. I miscalculated. That power is completely different from Damu's power before. It absolutely cannot be his. Holy Fist Palace. He felt a little chill in his heart. It could affect his disciples through such a long distance, causing them to the instant strength increased greatly. Such a method was indeed unimaginable. This time, he didn't even have time to use the most powerful move, Holy Technique, before he was defeated by the terrifying power of that move. Next time, I will definitely break through, Holy Fist Palace. Damn, you won't be so lucky next time. His deep voice still echoed in the hall, but the person disappeared in an instant. On the coastline, Haseman was like a huge black bat, zigzagging among the rocks on the seaside at high speed. His body was as light as a water bird, and he seemed to be light and weak without any weight at all. Suddenly he raised his head and looked at the scattered corpses on the beach in the distance. The blood there flowed into the seawater, making the seawater faintly red. He didn't know how much blood had been shed. It should be here. Haseman tried to adjust the headset. Group 5, is there anyone? Call back. Group 6, Group 7 to 12, whoever is still alive should scream. There was a hissing sound in the headset, and after a moment, a weak voice came out in his ear. Marshal. We are here. Haseman was slightly startled, because the sound did not come from the headset, but from the seawater on the left side of his body. He quickly approached the sea surface and saw a human body covered in blood lying in the shallow water between the rocks, dyeing the water there red. The man's body was covered with scars from the baby's mouth, and his face was miserable and weak. It seemed like he couldn't even move. Are you the leader of the 9th group? Haseman frowned and walked over. Suddenly he stopped and said, why are you here alone? Where is the mask? The mask is here with me, Marshal. I have the most serious wound on my back. I can't move. The man's eyes were dull and he looked like he was dying. He managed to raise his hand, as if he wanted Haseman to save him. Save me, Marshal, save. He tremblingly used his other hand to take out the mask from his arms, and there were 2 newly obtained masks. The densely packed eyes on the forehead of the mask are its biggest feature. When Haseman looked at it, his eyes moved slightly. He was wary of his surroundings, and his palm unknowingly gently pulled off a piece of gravel from the reef on the side. Then he walked slowly over to the wounded man. Boom! In an instant, without any warning, a violent explosion of flames exploded with the man in the center. The red flames were like the most beautiful dazzle. In an instant, they submerged the wounded man in the sea, and then rolled towards Haseman. And Haseman was completely unable to react in time. He was instantly swept in by the rapid flames, and he only had time to raise his hands in front of him. Bang! He felt like he was thrown backwards by a huge impact. he hit the edge of a sharp reef directly behind him. With a groan, he raised his palm and shot the rock behind him on the right side out of thin air, and then rolled on the spot. Clang! The stone hit the air on the right side like a bullet. The place originally seemed empty and there was no one, but after the stone hit, a transparent invisible human figure appeared out of thin air. "You can't run away, Haseman," the humanoid laughed ferociously, and flew towards Haseman, who was rolling away. Silver light flashed in his hands, as if he was holding some kind of metal weapon. But when he saw Horseman again, the invisible figure was suddenly slightly startled. The other party actually returned to the center of the explosion, and even found out the two masks just now. The masks were slightly damaged, but after such a violent explosion it was not destroyed in the explosion, but only a sharp raised edge was broken off. "I'm tired of using the trick of ambushing explosives." Haseman straightened up from the sea in a somewhat embarrassed manner and looked around, but no one else appeared. More than 10 groups of men were lost. I have recorded the account this time. He looked deeply at the invisible figure standing across from him, and suddenly he made a leap and rushed towards the undulating sea. With a pop, he jumped into the sea very quickly, and disappeared after a few swims. The invisible figure on the coast did not pursue him, but frowned slightly as he looked at the direction Hoseman left. A few seconds later, the two people who had just besieged Hoseman suddenly appeared next to him, a man and a woman from a high-ranking vampire clan. The red-haired man still held the red sword in his hand, while the woman was dressed in jet black. "Are you still chasing me?" the red-haired man asked. The two people who came behind him actually looked like they were led by this invisible humanoid. "No need." The invisible humanoid raised his hand. "Haseman is indeed very cautious and cunning. As long as he hesitates for a little while, he will never be able to leave again. This guy is a character." "What's the explanation from the clan leader?" the woman in black asked in a low voice. "Just let me tell you. This time our purpose was not here, it was just a cover." "Where is the real mask?" the invisible figure asked. "Already on the boat to Halda. I believe no one knows where it will be." The red-haired man chuckled, "that Haseman probably doesn't know that what he brought back is actually a fake. That thing it couldn't even explode when it stood up, so he probably thought it was a real mask. If the mask is real, not to mention exploding, it might be destroyed directly with just a little force." The invisible humanoid shook his head. "By the time Horseman brings the things back, our goal will have been almost achieved, and the things will probably have arrived long ago. Blood Alliance headquarters. It's better that your arrangements are in order. Otherwise, why would even the Fifth Holy Law clan leader be willing to obey your arrangements?" the woman in black flattered slightly. The invisible humanoid smiled and said no more. "Let's go, everything has been arranged, we are just waiting for news from the clan leader and the others." Understood. The group of people slowly left the place and walked toward the land deep on the coast, where someone was already waiting there.